doing my reading today, 2nd of June. As you see, I did just try and record and it didn't record, so I don't know if it'll work or not now. So anyway, just reading horribles. And somehow, I somehow got into a kind of fatal way of getting everything wrong, doing everything wrong and hurting him, as if I were doing exactly the thing that would make him angry. One night, when he was out evening class, I accidentally put the chain on the door. I went to bed and slept. He couldn't get in till I woke up at 3. It was raining, and he started hitting me, and he wouldn't let me go to sleep. Hartley, don't tell me any more of these horrors, please. I don't want to hear them. And anyway, it's all over. Oh, I've been so stupid, so stupid. And of course, Titus never settled down at school. Everything went wrong. Everything. And I'm not even sure that Ben believed it all at the start, or that he always really believed it later. Only everything I did seemed to make things worse. It was as if he hypnotised me into acting as if I were guilty. And I'm not sure what Titus believed, or what he believed. Titus used to sit there, hearing Ben say one thing and me say the other. It was like a sort of litany, an awful poem. 262, I'll tell you how many pages I read. And I don't know whether he knew what truth was, or whether there was any truth. It was all a kind of fog, an awful, senseless argument and row. It all got ravelled up into a nightmare, and in the end he blamed me for it. And in a way, he was right. Sometimes I think he blamed me and resented me more than he did Ben. Of course, when Titus was small, he was frightened all the time, and he kept quiet, and he'd sit all evening on his little chair against the wall, all white and tense and quiet, dreadfully quiet. Later on, when he was about 15, he used to pretend sometimes that he was your child, and once or twice he told Ben that I told him he was. But I think he did this just to spite Ben when Titus was too big for Ben to hit him anymore. Hartley, stop. Just tell me more about Titus now. When did he go away? Where do you think he is? When he left school, he went to the Poly, you know, the Polytechnic, where we used to live. He had a student grant. He was studying electricity. He lived at home, but he sort of ignored us. He sent us to Coventry. I've been to Coventry before. I sometimes felt he really hated us, both of us. And he could never forgive me for not protecting him when he was small. And just before we moved down here, he went into digs, and then he just vanished. He left the digs and never let us know or sent an address. I went round there and asked about him, but no one seemed to know or care where he'd gone, and he never wrote. He knew we were coming here, I think. He went to look for his real parents. He always said he would. He went on and on and on about them sometimes, and how perhaps they were rich. Anyway, he's gone now, gone. Don't be so tragic, Harley. He'll turn up again. He knows where you live, doesn't he? He'll turn up. He'll come home when he's short of money. They always do. She shook her head. Sometimes I don't want him to come back. Sometimes I believe he's dead. Sometimes I almost wish he were dead. And then I could hear that he were dead, so that the anguish of hope and the fear and the dread would just stop, and we would be at peace. He came back. It could be terrible. You mean? Terrible. The slow tears were coming. She kept drooping her eyelids to make them slide down her cheeks. She said, I wish we never adopted a child. It was my fault. Ben was quite right. We were better without. I could have managed then, and Ben would have been like I wanted. In spite of the pain and the horror of her story, my mind was leaping ahead into a bright light, into all sorts of almost detailed vistas of sudden hope. I would take Hartley away, and together we would find Titus. In some strange metaphysical sense, it was true. I would make it true. Titus was my son, the offspring of our old love. Hartley, my little one, stop crying. You've had your orgy of horror. Now stop it. You're mine now. I'm going to look after you and protect you. And she began shaking her head again. And I married him to make him happy. But you mustn't think it's been all bad. It hasn't. What I've told you is the bad part, but I've probably given you quite the wrong impression. Now you're going to tell me you've had a happy marriage. No, but it's not been all bad. Ben wasn't always awful with Titus. Ben's been a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde. Perhaps all men are. It was just but you kept cropping up and always taking off. And we could just never, and we couldn't just forget you because you were so famous. But we've had better times too. What were they like? Oh, just ordinary times. You might think it was dull. I didn't write this, Well, and I haven't read it before either. We had a quiet life. A quiet life. Which is why I'm probably just doing the reading wrong. Because I don't know what words are coming next. Ben didn't much like his job, but he liked doing things about the house. He likes DIY. DIY, do it yourself. He went to London once to the exhibition at Olympia. He used to go to evening classes. What was he learning at the class on that quiet evening when you left the chain on the door? He was learning to rivet china. Oh, Lord, Hartley. What did you do all the time? Did you entertain, have friends? Well, Ben didn't like social life. I didn't mind. We don't really know anybody here either. And do you go to evening classes too? I once started German, but he didn't like me to go out in the evening, and all the classes were different nights. Oh, Hartley, in all those years, was he faithful to you? Did he ever have anyone else? For a moment, she seemed not to understand. No, of course not. I wonder how you could be so sure. And did you ever have anyone else? No, of course I didn't. Well, I suppose it would have been as much as your life would have been worth. You see, really, we were very wrapped up in each other. We are very wrapped up, yes, I can see it all. No, you can't see it all, she said, suddenly turning towards me, blinking and drawing her fingers across her eyes and across her mouth. You can't see it. Nobody can understand a marriage. I've prayed and prayed and prayed to go on loving Ben. It's a travesty, Hartley. Don't you see now, at last, that situation is intolerable and impossible. Stop playing Jesus Christ, that torturer, if that's what you're doing. He suffers too, and I can be, oh, so unkind. It's not his fault. It was my fault in the beginning. You gorged me full of these awful stories and expect me to sympathise with him. Why did you come here? Why did you come to me? Why did you tell me these things at all? Perhaps because I had some time. And I've always known this, to tell someone, to say these blasphemies, what you call these horrors to someone. And as I told you, I've never really had any friends, Ben and I. Never really had any friends. Ben and I have lived so much together, so much on our own, so sort of secretly, a kind of hidden life like criminals. I never had anyone to talk to, even if I'd wanted to talk. So it turns out I'm your only friend. Yes, I suppose you are my only friend that I can flick this on. Well, in a way, you are responsible for your ruined life, just as you are responsible for mine. So, is this your revenge? No, I'm serious. I didn't mean that. Oh, this is not flowing very well, is it? It'll be very easy to follow. You need to buy the book yourself and read it. Yes, I suppose you are the only person I can inflict this on. Inflict it? You want me to share this pain? Well, in a way, you were responsible for your ruined life, just as you were responsible for mine. So this is your revenge. No, I'm serious. I didn't mean that. Just that Ben's idea about you have been like demons in our lives. But of course, it wasn't just wanting to tell someone. You know, when I saw you in the village for the first time, I nearly fainted. I had just come round the corner from the bungalows, and you were just going to the pub, running along the road, and my knees gave way, and I had to go a bit up a hill and sit on the grass. And then I thought I must be dreaming. I thought I must be mad. I didn't know what to do. Then the next day I heard someone talking about you in a shop, saying you retired and you'd come to live here. And I wondered for a bit whether I'd Ted Bell, because he mightn't have been able to recognise you. You don't look quite like your pictures. But then I thought, he's bound to hear anyway. Someone at the boat building class will know. So I told him I'd seen you, and he was in a frenzy. And he said, we must sell the house and go away. And of course, he believed, or said he believed, that you'd come on purpose because of me. And of course, it was very odd. But is he selling the house? I don't know. And he'd seen the house agent. He may have done I didn't ask. But really, I came here tonight because I wanted to tell you about Titus and about what Ben imagines and asks, and to ask your help. My help, my dearest girl, I've been telling you, I am all help. Let's go. Let's just go. We can go to London tomorrow, even tonight if there's a train. No. You see, I can't decide. I kept swinging to and fro. I thought first I'd simply go. No, wait, that's wrong. I thought first I'd simply ask you to go away, to sell your house and go away. If once you understood how much it mattered to me and Ben, how awful, what a nightmare it was that you were here, you would go at once. Hartley, we are going. You and I are going. That is the answer. I thought I'd write you a letter asking you to go, but it would have been so hard to explain it all in the letter. Hartley, will you come tonight? Tomorrow? You will. And then I thought, but perhaps this really is mad, that you could somehow persuade Ben, make him see that I've been telling the truth all these years and press him somehow. How? I don't know, swear or something sacred with a notary, or the word notary seemed to gather around it like some of the sheer insanity of what she was saying. So now we were to be involved with notaries. I could imagine how much that would impress Ben. At the same time, in the swift way of thought, I was making realistic plans. Of course, I still hoped when it came to it, Hartley would decide to stay with me now, tonight. However, it was possible that she would not. And even if she did, there might be some terrible revulsion of feeling afterwards. Such shock tactics might do more harm than good. Better perhaps to let her reflect quietly upon the reunion with me and draw her own conclusions. She seemed to me to be still in a dream, a woman locked up in her own nightmare. She would emerge, it might be slowly. I might even have a long work to do to give her back hope and life and stir in her the instinct of freedom, which is still seemed to me to be so natural to her. Meanwhile, I must find ways of keeping contact with her and of making her plan, making her construct futures which contained me. Surely once she conceived of happiness, she would spring forward to it. Surely once she conceived of happiness, she would spring towards it. But for the moment, it might be wise to humour her lunatic idea, but I might persuade Ben. If she just blankly asked me to go away, my task would be much harder. Though it was still certain to be successful in the end. Hartley was a sick woman. I said, I think your idea about Ben is a good one. I might be able to solve that problem anyway, to make him see and believe the truth about what happened, or rather didn't happen in the old days. We must construct about how it could be done. But Hartley, listen, the important thing is this. You're going to leave Ben and come to me for good, forever. Hartley, who had been sitting in trance, absorbed in her own unusual eloquence, looked suddenly terrified. She jerked back on her head and began to stare about the room. Charles, what is the time? It's 11 o'clock, I said. Oh, it's about 10 to 10, darling. Why not stay here now, please? It can't be as early as that. It will take me 35 minutes to get home, and Ben usually gets back about 11. She got up and said, I feel drunk. I'm not used to wine. I must go. She turned, made a sudden pounce towards my hands and peered at my watch, then uttered a high-pitched wailing cry. It's 11. It's 11. Oh, why did you do it? Why did I believe you? Why didn't I bring my watch? What should I do? Oh, what should I do? What should I tell him? He's sure to know where I've been. Oh, I've been so careful and I haven't told him lies, and now he'll think it's bad. It's as bad as it can be. Oh, I'm stupid. Whatever can I do? Stay here. You don't have to go back. I was shaking a little bit ashamed when I saw her grief and terror, but I thought, let there be disaster upon disaster, crisis upon crisis. Let it all break down quickly into a shambles. That will benefit me. And then I thought too, unless it kills her. And then I thought, I must keep her here. That settles it. It must be achieved now. I must not let her go home. I can't go back. I can't stay. I shall have to tell him I've been with you. But how can I? It'll be like all those nights. Oh, I shall die. I want to be dead. Why do I have to suffer and suffer like this? Oh, what can I do? What can I do? Hartley, stop being hysterical. Just make up your mind to stay here. I can't stay. I must run. Run! But it's no good. He must come home now. He'll be so worried and so angry. I can't do it. I can't go back. I can't. Oh, why have I been so thoughtless and so foolish? It's like what I always do, making things worse and worse. I should have known the time. Don't blame yourself. Think of it this way. You left your watch behind on purpose, so as to commit yourself to me. And if now made it possible to go back, so much the better. I shouldn't have come here. I should have told you all these things. He'll know I've told you, and he'll make me tell him everything I said. Page 5, I just want to look on 5. You came here to see an old friend. There's nothing wrong in that. And I am your friend. You said so. And I'm glad you did. And friends help each other. Oh, if only I'd gone an hour ago, everything would have been all right. I must run. I must get out of here. Hartley, be calm. If you insist on going, I will walk along with you. Now you must leave me alone. We must never meet again. Oh, how I wish I were dead. Stop this wailing. I can't stand it. And she was crying out. And as she was crying out, Hartley had been running to and fro in the kitchen like a demented animal, taking a few little rushing steps towards the door and a few steps back to the table. In her agitation, she even picked up the tea towel and stuffed it into her pocket. The spectacle of this frightened anguish was beginning to appall me, and I was now feeling frightened too. To allay my own fear, I ran to her and seized her in my arms. Oh, my darling, don't be so afraid. Stop it. Stay here. I love you. I'll look after you. She then began to fight me, silently, violently, with surprising strength, kicking my ankles, writhing her body about. One hand pinched my arm, the other pressed hard against my neck. I caught a glimpse of her open mouth and of her glistening, frothy teeth. I tried to lift her and capture one of her hands. Then it became too dreadful and too hard to attempt to crush this pinching, kicking animal into submission, and I abruptly let her go, and with the impetus staggered backwards, banged into the table and upset the candles. In that instant, Hartley was gone, rushing out the kitchen, not towards the front door, but out the back door, straight into the grass and onto the rocks. I ought to have rushed after her like a flash, like a faithful dog. I ought to have dragged her back and kept her in the house by force. Instead, some stupid instinct made me pause to pick up the candles. Then, leaving them fall in array in their teacups, I ran out into the blue, almost darkness, and the silent emptiness of the foggy shore. After looking at the bright candles, I could at first see nothing, and then it struck me in an odd way that while I was talking to Hartley, I'd forgotten about the sea. I'd forgotten it was there, and how confounded and at a loss to find myself half blind among those terrible rocks. There was no sign of Hartley. She must immediately have clambered and sprung with the agility of a girl somewhere over the ring of rocks which surrounded my small lawn. I called out, Hartley! And the sound was dreadful, dangerous. Which way had she gone? There was no easy way back to the road in either direction, either on the village side or the tower side. There was nothing in that blue dimness all around but wrinkled folded rocks and slippery pools and sudden crevices. I stood there and listened, hoping to hear her call me or to hear the sound of her scrambling. What seemed to be silence now revealed itself as a medley of small sounds. Though no sounds could tell me which way Hartley had gone, there was a faint lapping and sucking at the wavelets touching the foot of the hill cliff, and then retreating and then touching again. There was a very distant murmur of a car on the road near the Raven Hotel. There was a scarcely audible humming, which was perhaps as rhythmical hissing noise. There was a scarcely audible humming, which was perhaps as a result of the wine I had drunk inside my head, and there was a rhythmical hissing noise, followed by a muted echoing report. That was the sound produced by the water retreating from Min's cauldron. The thought of the cauldron now shocked me. into another awful fear. Could hardly swim. I had not till now formulated the thought that she might have run straight out of the house to hurl herself into the sea. She had cried out, "I want to die." Had she, in all those years, contemplated suicide? Indeed, how could she not? A strong swimmer would scarcely cast himself into a calm sea hoping for death. But to a non-swimmer, the sea might be the very image of a restful death itself. Could she swim? She had never learnt in the old days, when the sea was for both of us a far-off dream. It had never occurred to us to venture together into the Black Canal, although I had become a diffident swimmer at the age of 14. When I went to Wales with Mr. McDowell in our first talk at the bungalow, she had said Ben could not swim, but had said nothing about herself. Had she now run straight forward from my arms and from my deception into the easeful peace of the drowning sea? As I was thinking this, I was climbing over the rocks towards the right, in the direction of the village, since if she was running home, she would instinctively turn this direction. The easier way back to the road was by the way of the tower, because of the deep gully between the road and the rocks on the village side. Not too hard to negotiate by daylight, but very hazardous in the dark. Hartley might not know all this, however. I clambered and slithered, now calling again, able to see a little more in the diffused half-darkness. The evening star was present, perhaps other stars, a blanched moon. I thought and prayed. I let her just fall and sprain her ankle, and I will carry her back to the house and keep her, and let that devil do what he will. It was extremely difficult to keep up any pace over the rocks, since they were unpredictable and devoid of reason. Their senselessness had never so much impressed me. I kept trying to get near to the edge of the sea, but the rocks kept defeating me, not by malign interest, but a sheer muddle, and I kept slipping down the slopes into seaweedy pools and confronting black clefts and holes in smooth, unclimbable surfaces, and an intuition of light over the sea. And I wanted to be able to look there and to be sure there was not somewhere in the dark head of a drowning woman. Does that make sense? I had an intuition of light over the sea, and I wanted to be able to look there and be sure there was not somewhere the dark head of a drowning woman and her desperate arms breaking the calm surface. I moaned softly as I clutched and skipped, hallooing her name at intervals like an owl's call, as at last I came unexpectedly over the smooth dome of a tall rock, found myself just above the water. Right, well that's 10 pages. So my thing used to say 5 pages when you're trying to read, or 2 or 1, just some. So so I've done more than 5. So I've done 10. Just see what I've done. Just see what I've done. My tidying up. This is when I'm going to go out for a walk. I put a carpet down. So I'm taking all my clothes, throwing them over there in a heap. And now it's just annoying. That's an old bedstead, by the way, that got broken. Ended up being closed well. So there we go. I've got to move my bed to get the carpet under here, so it's not worth tackling at the moment. It's not.